Hey everybody, it's Mark Myers, the Family Woodworker. Hey, this week we're going to do a very simple camera dolly out of plywood and, believe it or not, a skateboard. And sure enough, once you can find one of these guys on sale, it doesn't have to be a very expensive one. In fact, we're trying to keep the cost down. So you buy yourself a basic skateboard and you just pull off the wheels and the trucks. And I also found this interesting. They put a little plastic cover over the top of one of the wheels that prevents it from rolling around so kids don't cruise around the store on the skateboard. But because this was off season and after Christmas, I got a really great price on the skateboard, only $12 and some change, and I had the whole unit to take home. Now, let's talk about the plywood. I spent about $17 on a 2-foot by 4-foot piece of finished one side plywood, which is suitable for painting or this project. I don't have a pickup truck. I have no way of bringing home a 8-foot stretch of lumber, so I'm pretty limited, and I found a 2-foot by 4-foot piece fit in my tiny little SUV without a problem. The challenge there is that you've got to put two pieces together in order to give yourself a decent span for your camera dolly to track on. So I started off with 4-foot pieces, and they're a little bit wider than the width of the wheels at about 7.5 inches. I also I cut a 15-degree taper on my tracks so that I could put these little 1.5-inch side rails on there to keep the wheels in. So here I'm just cutting off 1.5-inch strips. And you saw on the bigger pieces, I took that angled taper cut at 15 degrees. So now I've got to put these two pieces together. And the taper will be facing inward on the bottom. In other words, those little 1.5-inch side rails are going to angle up and out from the top surface of the track. But I need to stiffen the whole thing up by putting the pieces together. So it didn't make any sense to just put those side rails on both ends. I needed to put one of the longer sections across the middle to stiffen up those two pieces, and the wheels will roll right on top of that track. Now, I thought about using screws, but the simple answer is really to use just brad nails or a little air nailer if you have it to put the two long pieces together. So gluing those down and the brad nailer worked out really great. Nailed it, baby. And on the opposite side, we'll do the same thing. And since I've got that crossing over the center line there, that'll stiffen up the piece pretty well. Now, I chose to keep the length at 6 foot because I don't have a very big shop. When I take videos of woodworking projects, 6 foot's going to be just about right. Gives me enough length, and I'll show you a little demo at the end of the video how it worked out. And so now I'm just making up the gaps on the end of my track, and you can see that taper from that angle. Now I'm going to put something on the bottom of this track. It's going to do two things. I want to install a T-nut that's set up at a 1/4 and a 1/4 inch by 20 threads per inch. Pardon the noise. Is the same diameter that you'll find on a tripod camera mount. So that T-nut that I put in there will actually fit on top of a tripod and screw down. But I'm going to use this little piece of plywood, and I had enough on the one piece to solve this problem, but I wound up using this scrap piece of plywood instead. And I'm just going to glue this in place. It's going to stiffen up the whole track and then get my T-nut set up. You can see it right in the center there for mounting on the tripod. And so the assembly's almost done here on the track. On both ends, I just cut a little extra piece of plywood as a sort of a stop block, so the wheels, came to an end and wouldn't necessarily drop off the end of the board. Now to actually put the wheels together. I'm going to start out by cutting 2 small pieces of plywood that the truck mounts will fit inside. Now, one of these sets of wheels is going to be screwed down permanently to the one edge of this. Now, in this particular case, I used maple, but you still could have used that same sheet of plywood. There was enough there to be able to use, but I had this scrap maple. One set of wheels will be permanently fixed in the center on the one end of that little dolly. And we'll just pre-drill some holes for the trucks. And the second set of wheels, I'm going to want to pivot. So I'm going to put another T-nut into this set of wheels, and I'm going to center punch a bolt through this set and then through the top of that maple block. And that's going to allow me to turn the first set of wheels to the right or left and actually allow my little dolly to make a gradual curve if I roll it on a flat surface. I also put a little Gorilla Glue in the T-nut so that it would never come out. And once I got everything measured up, we'll screw it down to that second plate. Now, I had already measured out center on this piece of maple, so it was pretty easy to get both sides of those wheels squared up. Now for these, I had some cabinet screws, which is sort of a flat top self-tapping screw. They go into maple really nice and very solid. There's not going to be a lot of weight on top of this dolly. It's going to hold a very lightweight video camera or my my heavier 35mm camera, but this is going to be plenty sturdy for that purpose. Now we'll drill my hole in the maple for that center punch bolt. It's threaded in there. And you've got the second set of wheels to pivot so that you can take a turn and create a nice gradual arc or a tight arc. Whatever size arc you need, you just need the flat surface to roll it on. Now here's a design consideration. Now I've seen a couple of these simple dollies that use a very standard swivel camera mount or the very top of a tripod mount. And you can buy those and it would fit sort of right in the middle of that dolly. But I chose to use, I've got a tiny little bendable tripod, and I'm just going to put that into the top of this dolly. It's multi-purpose for me because I can put the little tripod with the bendable legs in the dolly. I can take it off. I can put the tripod on a tabletop, and then I can put it back on the little dolly. So it was very flexible for me. But I also like the idea of putting that swivel head, that very standard tripod swivel head top, in the middle of that dolly, and that's something you can do yourself. Now, as it turns out, the diameter of those legs on the dolly were about 5/8 of an inch, so I took a Forstner bit and cut those out. And it'll fit right in there. Hey, that was a pretty fun project, everybody. Thanks for watching.